ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। यथाग्निर्दाहिका शक्तिः रामकृष्णे स्थिता हिया सर्वविद्या स्वरूपां तां शारदां प्रणमाम्यहम्। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। Namaste to you all. My love and blessings. We'll do the Sharda Kavacha first. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Atha Shri Sharda Kavacham पारमार्थस्य प्राप्त्यर्थं देहमर्पितमस्तु मे ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्ध्यर्थं भिक्षां याचे च शारदे। ॐ सर्वशक्त्यात्मिकायै श्री शारदा देव्यै नमः। ॐ पुनातु नः शारदा देवी पुनातु परमेश्वरी चरणं पवित्रं विततं पुराणय्येन पूतस्तरति दुष्कृतानि तेन पवित्रेण शुद्धेन पूता अतिपाप्मानमरातिन्तरेम। शरीरं कृणुहि यज्ञशमलन्नो भयं कृणुहि विश्वतः। शारदा पुरस्तात् शारदा पश्चात्तात् शारदोत्तरात्तात् शारदाधरात्तात् शारदा नः सुवतु सर्वतातिगं शारदा नो रासतां सारोग्यदीर्घमायुः। सर्वतो देवि त्वन्नः पाहि पाहि समन्तात् यतः सर्वमिदं जातं येन सर्वमिदं ततं। यदेकमव्यक्तमनन्तरूपं विश्वं पुराणं तमसः परस्तात् यज्जन्तोर्निहितं गुहायां तद्दर्शयाभयं प्रदेहि। ॐ तत्सत्स्वरूपिण्यै च विद्महे शारदा देव्यै च धीमहि तन्नश्चिन्मयी प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। The corona effect is continuing in the same way as it was, without any solid solutions except prayer and facing all odds as they come. We don't have any alternative. One thing is, we must protect ourselves with the divine protection. It is called Kavacha. Second thing is, we must, if God keeps me alive, what will I do with this body and mind? Am I going to apply it for good purpose or bad purpose? For a noble cause or for my own enjoyments? If You are going to dedicate your life, your body, for the welfare of all, to serve everyone, to, if not anything, you need not thrust yourself into any activities or rush into any things. But wherever you are, if you feel your heart is feeling for others and praying for the welfare of others, that itself will count. So, if you are the body mind kept for the welfare of others, ready to sacrifice for anybody at any time, has no problem. Nature will see that it is protected for the welfare of others. Even after realization, after Bhagavad Sakshatkara, he is totally free, he is beyond the whole creation. He can opt for anything. He is not bound by the laws of nature anymore. Yet, nature keeps an ego in him, binds him to the world, like Swami Vivekananda Thakur says, when your mother's work is over, I will give this key back to you. All your realizations, Nirvikalpa Samadhi and all, everything is locked and key is with me. You have to do the service, mother's work, after that this key will be with you. So, like that, nature sees that some people will not come under the normal way of things going on. They are governed by the nature or the divine. So we must always have this divine protection all through. Any flow, there will be a field around. If electricity is flowing, there is a magnetic field around it. This field is what protects us. A constant remembrance of God, repetition of God's name. When it is done, it is a flow. There is a field around. The field is the protective field. Within that, nothing evil can come, even evil thoughts. One thought, evil thought in your mind will link you to the internet of all bad ideas in the world. If you have good thought in your mind, immediately it will log you to the internet, universal internet, in which all good thoughts are there. So it will be flowing within you and your thoughts. They will be multiplying. Good, you are in the flywheel of goodness. Bad thoughts, you are in the whatever you think, whatever your consciousness is possessing. This I see when I see the actions of people. Why certain people are doing certain actions? What makes them? When you see, it is the content of their brain. Nature has provided everything nicely. Man can think of the divine, do anything, so much of service, love, this, that, run about in this world, do things. But they are busy in certain small things of the life with which they live, because their consciousness is filled with those things. This we see. So, if you are filled with love for humanity, then you see you are already on the nature's lap. If you are kept the body and mind for higher attainments, then you are on the lap of God. Nothing bad anything happening. We saw a video where a sadhu is being beaten to death in India itself. And the way in which he was beaten to death, that video, I was thinking, suppose he is a true devotee of God, then before the first strike falls on his body, God must have lifted that soul already and gone away. They are beating a dead body. The soul is not there. It has merged. Some karma was there or something was there that the bodily existence has nothing to do with the scholastic existence of man. Body undergoes all the transformations, 6 transformations. Jayate, asti, vardate, vipranimate, apakshiyate, nashyati. It gets birth, comes into existence, grows, undergoes transformation, then deteriorates, destructs, goes to do destruction. It is all bodies are undergoing some way of getting the death. But what would have happened to his soul? Once he whole life he has spent for God, in thought of God. When death comes in this way also, he is not disturbed. He will not be disturbed. Oh, you are going to beat my body. What will you do? I have given my soul to God already. So that understanding of giving ourselves entirely to the divine, unconditionally, that is our internal affairs, internal states that we are going to pass. It doesn't matter. Nobody, outsiders or anybody, our own people also need not know what is our heart and where is it placed. So this is the thing. So we have to, 2 things we have to remember. One, to keep our life existing only, mainly at least, if it is not possible only, mainly to realize God, to reach higher states of consciousness before the body falls off. It will, in no time the life goes off. We don't, even most of us are in the halfway or the 3/4 way of our journey. So this one thing, and seeking, second thing important is seeking the welfare of entire humanity, wherever they are, in whatever conditions, belong to whatever traditions or religion or this, that, immaterial of all differences, to seek their welfare from the depth of the heart. Yes, this is the when you feel within for the welfare of humanity, there is no need of any prayer. It is actually the extreme conditions of prayer is the innermost feeling. It is a silent prayer in which words won't be there. There won't be words. It's a silent prayer. But the heart is seeking that of the jivas. Somebody, our dearest one is there, and he is in the hospital on the deathbed. The mother or the wife or husband or anybody who is related, you will be feeling the great loss is going to come, which cannot be compensated. Then he will go to the shrine, sit in front of the image of God, which all through he was worshipping. Then he doesn't pray. He knows that it's going to die. Now, any amount of prayer to save will not help also. He stands in front of God. He doesn't tell anything. Just tears are dripping from his eyes. Just silently standing. He is conveying what he has to convey through silence. This is silent prayer. When you see actually the position of the universe, the question whether should I pray or not, what should I pray doesn't come. How much intensely you are feeling. With that feeling, oh Lord, what is this? Automatically comes. Full presence of divine in the consciousness and full feelings in the heart. This heart and head is the prayer, presence of divine and the suffering of mankind. They speak to God. Everything is accomplished through such prayers, which is not uttered through words, not expressed through mind, no intellect interfering. It is going on. So this is what we have to do now. Otherwise there is no other way. For all the harm that mankind has committed to the nature, he has to repay the tax. He has to pay the tax for whatever he has done. And how much harm we have created to the nature, and we were building up castles in air without any support. Now we understand where are we, what is our status, what we have to do, where we have to go. So man is coming back to his senses that I am human. I have responsibilities, I have duties to perform towards myself, towards the family, towards the society in which I live, towards the nation, towards the humanity. I have the global responsibility. So this need of the hour we have to meet. Okay, we will go with the cultural aspect. One of the important things, unless we know Indian culture and spirituality in detail, we won't be able to understand the depth of what I have to do and where am I, who am I, what is this, what is the difference between me or Indians and the rest of the world. It's entirely different. How nature is bringing up. What I am trying to show is natural evolution of a culture. Natural evolution where there is no any factor other than the nature taking the man to the heights of realization. This is unique, where you will see there is no human hands or any hands in the development of the spirituality, religion. That's why we don't call this Hindu religion in the sense of the term used religion commonly. It's called dharma, Sanatana dharma, Bharatiya Samskriti, Sanatana dharma. So this distinction, unless we know, we cannot change the attitude of the world. We cannot give something to the world which will help the humanity to raise. What is the difference if you know, where there are the corrections to be done at the global level? How they have to change, why they have to change. That means the reader, to understand when we present something, the person who is listening must undergo the transformation from within. And from within it must come, yes, I have to adopt this. This is the way. This is the right thing. So, when it comes, if it is nature bringing out, this, all other religions we see is incidental according to the emergency acquired by the social structure under certain conditions. And many cultures and many religions and civilization has completely erased, and here and there now differences are appearing, but you will see the difference when you naturally growing stage by stage of evolution. That's what I am taking now. In the last class we saw certain words, ultimate, absolute, the reality, the truth, eternal principles, things like that we came across. First, what do they mean? How they indicate all these are indicators of the transcendental, which man can never understand through intellect or even through his own heart. He cannot understand, he cannot reach it. But to give an inclination by repeatedly contemplating on these things, what happens is he will be able to just touch the surface of it. Then a glimpse is sufficient for internal transformation. How to hold on to that? Because with body-mind complex, with intelligence and all, we cannot catch. We have to transcend ourselves from within to catch the beyond. So, how to, each time you go one step inside, you are going one step outside also. This is the technique that we use in attainments. So this is what we studied in the last time, and then need of emotional involvement along with the intellectual, how to balance my intellect and this one and penetrate into the reality like an arrow. It will be the emotional involvement will take you to the inner apartments of everything which intellect cannot. So we need the emotional involvement, and it will equip you to take up the journey into the realm beyond. And nature, the third thing we came to know last class is that nature has not kept anything secret. And every individual is endowed with the capacity, the faculty needed to transcend the nature and go beyond and attain. These are what we saw in the last class. So then we went how they transcend by expansion of that is how they loved nature. Everything was like a child, 2 years, 3 years child gets up early in the morning, comes out and looks at the world with great joy. Everything gives them joy. A bird is sitting somewhere, a butterfly is flying, anything happening anywhere, the flowers, this, that, everything is so beautiful for the child, so much exciting. Like that, the Rishi sages, they found that everything is enchanting, everything is giving joy. The food, this, that, how the nature is taking care of the body, mind, everything. All this was experienced, and they started loving nature and becoming one with the nature, and they took care to see that the future generation, it is protected and saved, not to create any harm or abuse for the nature. This way they started entering into the nature, embracing it as whole thing. This made their consciousness to expand. Expansion of consciousness is spirituality. Expansion of heart is spirituality. Without knowing, they are growing spiritually. Their heart is expanding, they are becoming conscious of the world beyond. They are entering into the field of seeing the stars and planets, planetary movements and everything, sitting in meditation. Because their consciousness is expanded and pervading each time we expand at a particular level of our existence, we are merging our individuality in the cosmic being. Suppose I am aware of this physical world. In the physical world, I expand my consciousness. Let it pass through the Milky Way, the millions of galaxies beyond. It's going, expanding my mind. My individual physical existence is merging in the cosmic physical existence. The Vishwa, the individual existence, is merging in the Virat. So, as we expand our consciousness at each level, when we from there at the cosmic level, when we totally become one with the entire cosmos, our individual existence at the physical level is merged in the cosmic level. Now I sink down to the, just like I enter into sleep, at the individual level, I enter into sleep at the cosmic level. From Virat, I go to the Hiranyagarbha level. Then my individual existence at subtle, my mind, senses, intellect, my pranas, all that get merged in the cosmic counterpart. Similarly, when I sink to the lowest, innermost layer of causal level, Karana Sharira, at the cosmic level, my individual Karana Sharira, causal body, is merging in the cosmic causal body. So, the microcosm at every level, when you are in the cosmic level of awareness, your individual microcosm is merging in the cosmic, that is macrocosm. This expansion, becoming one with the entire cosmos, imagine, just a child, mother, when she holds the child, to feel the oneness with that child, how that mother might be feeling. Or any two friends who love each other, sitting together, trying to feel that oneness, how they would be feeling. And imagine you are totally getting lost yourself, that you are not able to understand you exist even in the intensity of your love. You have totally forgotten yourself, forgotten this world, and only object of love is there in your consciousness. Like that, when you are able to love the nature and expand your consciousness to the cosmic level, it is a wonder. What would be the joy that you are getting? All beings at that level, whichever being is there in the universe, you are one with that. At all levels, gross, subtle and causal levels, stula, sukshma, karana level, I am one with the cosmos, means I am one with all beings, I am one with the divine, I am one with everything, all objects of the universe. So that oneness, how much of freedom, how much of joy it might be giving. This at this level they saw. The whole thing at causal level, nothing exists. It is similar to your deep sleep. When you enter the deep sleep, nothing of your remains. All your knowledge, all your tendencies, your identity. These are three main things. Your knowledge, your identity, and your tendencies. All they merge into just a fund of knowledge and remain as knowledge, independent of you. You are alone a subject, without an object. Similar condition at the cosmic level they experience, and at that level they see the whole thing, matter has become energy at that level. Matter and energy are interconvertible. From this fund of energy, the whole universe is going to evolve, and into this energy it is going to retract back in a cyclic order. What happens to us is every day we go to our causal state, again emerge out. We go to deep sleep and come out. Same thing happened at the cosmic level, the whole universe, just like macrocosm and macrocosm. Microcosm and macrocosm are built on the same principle. As I sleep and wake up, the whole universe, it takes millions of years to go back, merge in the absolute, again emerge out. So from where it emerges, that energy which is going to appear as this, its frequency difference. The more higher the frequency, we see it is manifesting as matter. It looks like solid matter, but it is a particular frequency which is telling itself, presenting itself to be matter. Air and this one, they are all same energy at different frequency. In different way it is presenting itself. Varieties of things, varieties of pattern. The difference is just frequency difference. So this is what we find there, that fund of energy from which the whole universe is going to manifest. That's a part of the infinite energy of the consciousness, absolute consciousness. It's called Chit Shakti. The Chit Shakti, a part, as if is this universe which is going to, this they call Prakriti, nature, Prakriti. And in this, when they went to the causal level of existence, through expansion of their consciousness and sinking in the consciousness, when they went to the bottommost layer of the creation, they found the whole thing in the energy form, and the whole thing is codified, just like a tree becoming seed. In a seed, the whole tree is codified and put. The same tree is going to evolve from that seed. So the whole thing was registered there in the form of knowledge. It is mere ideation, pure ideation. That ideation is about to burst forth and become the whole universe again. This ideation, how it would go to evolve into a universe, we see in 5 stages of evolution: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa, Prithvi. 5 elements with which these why 5 elements only? Why do we say? Because we have only 5 senses. With this we see the world. Whatever you see in this world is perception through 5 senses. The 5 senses pertain to these 5 elements. Ear, sound, to Akasha, then Vayu, Sparsha, touch, Agni, sight, and then Jala, taste, and Prithvi, smell. These 5. One is the Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, sound and all that. On the other side is the perception, organ of perceptions, ear, eyes and all that. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and here Chakshu, Karna and all these. The 5 senses and sense objects. Sense objects are kept outside in the universe, senses are kept inside the Jiva. So senses have attraction for the sense objects because they come from the same origin. So they have eyes want to see, ear want to hear, nose want to smell. All these things, these 5 senses, it is the whole universe what you perceive is only the 5 senses, and they are made up of 5 elements. The whole universe, our body, everything is 5 elements, basic 5 elements. This is what they see at the level. This will be in form of idea, not in matter or anything, nothing. It is germ of the universe. It is there in the idea. I want to build a house. The house is there in my mind, yet it has not yet become manomaya. The house is manomaya. It's made of mind only now. When it comes to solid form, like that, it is in the energy. The whole universe is in the energy as idea. There was an idea, then came the universe. So this is to that level they go, and in that exalted level they think, they see, what is this? I have come to the lowest layer of existence. I have expanded infinitely. I know whole of this universe, in every aspect of it. I know the Jiva's life. I know the matter. All things. I know everything. But still I am in the framework of time and space. I may go to deep sleep where nothing exists there. When I enter into deep sleep, nothing is there. In that condition, I am still in the limitations of time and space. I am bound by time and space. I may not be knowing there. I may not be having knowledge of the world because I am in deep sleep. Yet, because nothing I experience, I am not out of the framework of time and space. There is limitation. I am limited by time. Similarly, at the cosmic level, the Rishi Munis went to the base level. As if we are in deep sleep, they are at deep sleep level of cosmic level. And there they find, oh, even after coming to this level of exalted states of existence, after all I am within the time and space bondage. What is beyond? Then a few questions appear in their mind. If space is limited, yes, if the whole universe, even at the causal level, at gross, subtle and causal level, at all the 14 planes of existence, Bhubhuva, Swaha, Mahajana, Tapa, Atala, Tustala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala, all these 14 lokas and the 3 layers of existence, if all this is within the limit of time and space, how does nature maintain its freshness? Because water, everything is limited. Water on the earth is limited. How it will within no time it will become stale. It will become useless. It is flowing. It is becoming dirty every moment. It will not be. There won't be freshness. There won't be anything. How the nature is maintaining the purity of it, and everything is limited. It gets consumed. Where is the unending source of that? Nature has, then they will understand, oh, in nature everything is going on in a cyclic way. Water falls in the rain, pure fine water. It flows on the earth as streams and river, it flows, and finally you will see it is merging in the ocean. It's flowing. Then you will see it's getting evaporated, becoming clouds, and whatever dirt it has acquired, the dirt is left there itself. Pure water gets evaporated and fresh fine water falls again. There is eternal supply of fresh water by recycling process. Nature adopts this recycling process everywhere. The thousands of years back, what you saw, the vegetation, is still there in the same form. Many millions of trees came and many millions of trees went off, but it is there as it is. How? The seed formation, involution and evolution. The tree is made to enter into a seed. It goes. Before a tree or a plant dies, it throws away thousands of seeds into the nature to see that it remains. The vegetation remains at all times. This, they found out everything is going on a cyclic. But then half the cycle alone is visible. Evolution is visible. Involution is not visible. You can see from sunrise to sunset, not from sunset to sunrise. You can see seed becoming tree and you cannot see the tree becoming seed. Tree becoming seed is involution, seed becoming tree is evolution. One side you can see. You can see water falling and flowing. You cannot see water evaporating and becoming clouds. So this cycle, half the cycle, from birth to death you can see, death to birth you cannot see. This other half, which is a secret in nature, if you know that secret, you know how to come out of that vicious circle of evolution and involution, back and again and again. This is one thing they found out by knowing. The first question was, why? If it is nature is limited, then how the purity is maintained, how freshness is maintained, how this newness is maintained at all times. So this cycle, life also, egg and hen cycle goes on and on. It has without beginning and without ending. It's going on and on. From this, the another truth they come to know is the whole universe is governed by a law, an important law, the law of cause and effect. This is another thing, another discovery, another understanding or the realization they get. Whatever state the things are there in the universe, whatever events are taking place in the universe, whatever is happening, whatever is in what state, there is a definite cause behind it. So, knowing the cause, you can, if you bring the cause together, there is an effect. Cause gets converted into effect. So, suppose I am what you see, what I am here now, is there is a definite cause why and how I am here in this form, in this state now. Everybody, every person, why a person is there in this state, some as good, some as bad, because there is a cause behind. So this law of cause and effect gave birth to another important, when it's applied to the life, it takes another form. It's called law of karma. Each man has to reap the fruit of his actions, good for good, bad for bad. So the law of karma came into existence from the law of cause and effect. So if you are the product of your past, you are the balance sheet. Every moment that balance sheet is changing. If you are product of your past, you can shape your future. Because present actions are in your hand. You have the freedom to act as you want. That much freedom nature has given. Nature has given everything and given the freedom also. But with the freedom which is not given to any other species, freedom of action, she has given the responsibility to experience the effects of the karma also. Whatever karma you are doing, you are responsible for that. You have to undergo. There is no other way. So this law of karma comes into existence. We see this is what you see how one by one stage, like a blooming of a flower, the ideas and understandings are growing, you see. How the Rishimunis, how the discovery, how the inquiry into the reality. Look at their dedication, look at the way. The first thing is by splitting the things into minute things and discovering, knowing the properties of matter, we cannot solve the problem of human existence. Either individual, both individual and humanity as whole. We cannot solve the problem. Solve the problem of birth and death, suffering and joys and suffering of life. Can we solve by knowing anything about the science what we know now? No, we can't. With all advancement, the man's suffering is as it is. We are not able to physical, mental tensions, everything is going on as it was. In fact, little more intensely than the earlier days. So there is a cause. This we can change our life. Swamiji says, Vivekananda says, one thing is each man is potentially divine. The purpose of life is to manifest the inner divinity by controlling the nature, internal and outer, external. This is one thing. The second thing, each man is maker of his own destiny. So this is another important law, that you are responsible for your future. You can build up and you can do whatever you want to be. If you are the product of past, you have the future in your hand to shape your future. You are the maker of your own destiny. So these two were the important things the Rishi Munis, the sages, discovered. They discovered means not discovery of searching and all. It's realization. It's inquiry into the reality and concentrate, the nature reveals. So, this with then a few questions regarding time and space. After coming to the highest exalted state of existence, we are still in the bonds of time and space. This one question we have seen, the space being limited, everything is limited. How the perpetuality of freshness, newness and enchanting life is maintained. The second thing is there a way to transcend this entirely and go beyond? Because they have come to the bottommost layer. The gross, they have transcended. They have transcended the subtle. They have transcended the causal level also. They are at the bottommost of the creation, entire creation. From there, these questions they are raising. Is there a way to go beyond? If even these states, at cosmic level, cosmic awareness, cosmic existence also, when our individual existence is merged in the cosmic existence, when the microcosm has become one with the macrocosm, still if we are in the bondage of time and space, is there a way to go beyond the time and space? Is there anything? This is the second question that came up. And the third is, time means change. Change is what registers time. Time means change. If there is no time, there is no change. If there is no change, there is no time. In deep sleep, you don't see anything because there is no change. You are not aware of the time. Time awareness goes off when you don't see any change. In deep sleep, you don't see any change. You don't have anything to see. So there is no time consciousness at all. So time means change. Change means what? Change means death and birth. Morning we got up, there was dawn. Dawn died, sunrise came up, sunrise died, the forenoon came up. Now forenoon is dying away and noon is coming near. So one death of one state of existence and birth of another. Change is birth and death. A series of birth and death continues is change. So if this change is there a way to come out of this cycle of changes? Can we transcend the time and go beyond, where there is no birth and death? I must exist in an unchanging aspect of existence. The bliss must continue in its own right, independent of time. Peace must continue independent of time. Because within time, my body is changing. It's going towards destruction. I had birth. I grew up. I am moving towards death. Where is the real joy? Where is eternal joy? So, can we go away from this cycle of birth and death. This is the one thing, how to escape the cycle. The third one is man's grip on life. He is holding on to many things in his life. His family, his property, his own status, name, fame, the ego, all these things he are holding on to. Time is passing. When the time is passing, we don't understand the time passing because we are running, we are hold on the objects of my interest are making me run with the time. When I run with the time, everything looks prosperous and going. We don't see the changes taking place because we are in two vehicles. If they are running in the same speed, it looks like stationary. With respect to another, two vehicles are running, two trains or two vehicles. Then you see it is stagnant to you. You are stagnant to him. The two vehicles, just like that, I and the universe, world, look like constant and eternal, endless. The eternity is coming into our mind. This is all going to be like this. It is a continuous. Its continuity is being observed because of my hold to this universe. Things of my interest. Because I am holding, I am not seeing every incident as passing. Kshana Bhangura, I don't understand what Buddha says as the passing. When you stop, pause a little and look at everything is a passing show. It's a continuous passing show. From now we have spent almost nearly 45 minutes. Where is it gone? Gone forever. You can't hold it now. It has gone. From morning you got up. You spent the whole day. Where is that day? It has gone away. Every moment is passing. Every event is passing. Future is entering into present, present is entering into past, is going away. And you see, when you stand still and see, you will see everything is passing event. Nothing to hold on. Whole life is spent, nothing to hold on. At last, we are empty. So, what is that? Where is the real eternity? Where is the unchanging reality? So, when I see the change, there must be something unchanging. Otherwise, I was holding, I was not recognizing the change. Now I am able to recognize the change. I will ask the question, who am I? If everything is changing, there must be an unchanging entity which is observing it. If I am also changing, either comparatively I must be at rest, or so this, who am I, comes into picture. Who am I? What is this object and subject? Who is the real subject? For when a drik drishya viveka, we are seeing the world, I am the seer. When I see the change, I am unchanging. Then I see my bodily existence. My mind is the seer and body is seen. Body is changing. Then I still go within. My intellect, I see the mind is fluctuating and changing constantly. Then still behind, when I see, unchanging reality I am. And everything, body, mind, everything is changing. There is an unchanging, eternal principle which I have to reach. It is my own self, my innermost. There is no death, there is no birth. It was never born. This Atmic existence, self, the self-enquiry into the self came. First the inquiry into the external world came. Then when they started understanding it is a passing show, nothing exists, it is just a passing show, then the question came, who is the seer? So this, how beautifully the science of spirituality is emerging out, you see, like a flower blooming by stage into fullness. This is what we see in Hinduism. Everything on through realization. And all these are experiences recorded and can be experienced by everyone. It is not I have experienced and you cannot experience it. No. I have experienced, you too can experience. This is the thing. We'll stop here. Just like the Western science, there is science also like Ayurveda, yoga, etc. What is the difference between the two? Do they both follow the same principles? After all, external science, when we say spiritual, this one is also a science. Science, when we apply only to the physical, material science, it is limited to senses and mind. What perceives, beyond that, we don't go. Our modern science do not accept anything which is unperceived by senses and which is not intangible, which is not tangible to the mind and intellect. They never try to go beyond the limitations of senses and mind or intellect. Can I cross the mind, limitations of mind? Because the world that we are seeing, as the Einstein was telling, Einstein used to say, an iota of this creation we are able to perceive because we have only 5 senses. The rest of the universe remains inaccessible to human mind, and mind also has limitation. Each sense has limitation. Now look at the eyes, it can see only VIBGYOR. Ultraviolet and infrared we cannot perceive. Ear has decibels. So when we say science here, it is within the limitations of time and space and within the limitation of 5 senses and mind and intellect. It takes the same form, whoever does the science. But Indians wanted one thing, is not to harm the nature by any means, even though we have the capacity to do it. For the sake of developments, civilization and all, we should not harm nature by any means and protect the nature. No abuse of nature, no exploitations in nature. This was one thing they insisted upon in developing science. And then they never wanted to waste the time on minute things, because they will never give the fulfillment physically, however great it is. A golden chain or ornaments or the computers, this, that, it will not give you fulfillment at any time. Any amount of physical development. You may live in a fine bungalow with all facilities, all utilities provided to you. AC room is there, everything is there. It will never give you fulfillment in life. So instead of wasting time in pursuits of those which are not going to give me fulfillment, I want to utilize every moment of my life where I can get ultimate fulfillment. Yes, I am Purna. I don't need anything. Now I pour out. To that level of fulfillment, they wanted to go. So they went whatever is necessary. Housing, yes, fine housing, but nature favorable. Then food, agriculture, yes. Metallurgy, yes. Medicines, yes. But not that which harms. Now, just imagine the soap. Now after Corona, 6-7 times. How much of caustic is entering into earth? A day will come when plants will not grow on this earth at all. If we other side we have to see. Now I am safe, but our grandchildren will not have food to eat properly. About 20 feet of earth has to be turned inside outside to get the quantity of food. Now in Madhya Pradesh, when I was there, I lived for 12 years. Within 12 years, the fields that were giving with cow dung and all that, 30 quintal wheat was giving at the end 3 quintal of wheat, because they started using the artificial manure and then burning all the leftovers. This is what happens. One side, if I try to do something, other side it will give a bad effect. So how to balance between nature? Go with nature, go with nature, go with nature. In our childhood days also we were using soap nut powder. Now we cannot live without soap. For washing clothes, they used to use ash. Vessel cleaning, we used to use ash. Whatever food is cooked, that ash is used for. Everything is nature favorable, eco-friendly. That was the difference between Indian science and the other. Yes. Principles are same, developments are same. What is silent prayer? A little more silent prayer. Silent prayer is where the mind or intellect, who feels, is the question. Now, I am losing my friend, who is my best friend, who is my colleague, who has been helping me all through in every respect, and I trust in him and he trusts in me. He dies. Where do I feel the pain? I feel the pain in the intellect. A servant of mine who is serving nicely, he dies. I feel the pain in mind, not in the intellect, in the mind. If my relatives and all die, I feel the pain in the outermost surface. If I don't have any bonds, internal bonds, or some person in our gully, in our street dies, I feel, but it is surface. Now I heard, next moment I forgot. But if my child dies, my wife dies, my husband dies, it touches a little more deeper the heart. The heart touching is something unimaginable. Sometimes you might have experienced the loneliness which people feel. How lonely and how struggle it is of the soul. So this, when it pervades your intellect, mind, senses, body and all, this pain is projecting, and the waves of the pain, suffering of mankind is pervading your whole body. You go and stand in front of the Lord. You don't know what to say. Just, oh Lord, what is this? That is the prayer. That prayer which cannot be expressed through words or by gestures or by intellectual understanding, or there is no way of expressing it. That prayer that comes as Vyakulata in spiritual life before realization. The longing, irresistible longing of the soul independent of body-mind complex. The Antaranga that starts weeping. Where are you, my Lord? Where are you, my beloved? It starts. This is a Vyakulata is the silent most prayer that the jiva offers to God before the realization dawns. This is the silent prayer. We move from the gross oral prayer to mental prayer, then to prayer of the heart, and then we transcend the heart prayer also and reach the silent prayer. It is silent prayer that emerges out the what we are seeking deeply. Yes, anything? How can we merge all attractive worldly objects into the form of the Ishtadevata so that we can transcend the temptation? Swami Nityananda recommends this, but I find it hard to. How can we merge all attractive worldly objects into the... See, worldly objects we cannot merge into the Ishtadevata because it is not in our possession. We are longing for it, and even if it is in possession, suppose I like masala dosa, or I like nice ornaments, gorgeous dresses, I cannot offer these things. But there is a principle, there is a something triggering within, there is a process by which it manifests in your mind and intellect behind the expression that I want this, I have to enjoy this. All these things, before it comes, there is a energy that is manifesting as the desires. So this energy is diverted always. It is not the expressions are not. It is a Thakur says when the aloo patol boils in the vessel, vegetables boil in the vessel, it looks for children and all, it looks as if the vegetables are jumping in the pot. But actually the vegetables are not jumping in the pot by themselves. Below is the fire. So you remove the fire, they all become silent. So this fire that is making the desires, your mind jump about, this fire is diverted to the God. It is not neither the expressions nor the objects. Then there is another process by which the instruments which are involved in enjoyments are offered. In meditation, I offer my intellect. In puja, I offer my senses. In japa, I offer my mind. In worship, I offer my senses. In service, I offer my body. Like that, what all in and through I can work, I am enjoying, the attractions I am fulfilling. Through what instruments, those instruments are offered through worship, japa, prayer also, you see, vaka, singing bhajans, all these are the ways by which the instruments are offered. The energy which is driving, the driving force inside is also offered to God. But not the external objects. Alright? What is Vyuthana Sthiti you had mentioned in the last class? Vyuthana is, just like we sleep and wake up from dream or sleep, we go to the super conscious state. When we wake up, the consciousness comes to a certain level of we have become conscious. Usually man becomes conscious of himself, his family, his work, field, his earnings, his enjoyment. This is his consciousness, normal man's consciousness. Again he sleeps with that consciousness, again comes to the same. But some day will come, you start looking at the others, how they are, what are they doing. Your consciousness is expanded. When it is expanded to the human level, what happens is, you will bring values into life. I will not tell a lie. I will not hurt others through words. All these things through my actions. Then, you little more expands to look at the nature. vast nature. Then what happens is you bring ideal into life. I will sacrifice my life for a particular purpose. I have to achieve this for nation building, for service of humanity, for realizing God. The ideals are brought into, because the consciousness is expanded now. The ultimate expansion is to be one with God. It transcends the limitations of nature and goes beyond. This is called superconscious state. The lower we move towards point, sleep, deep dream and deep sleep, we go towards point, it expands towards infinity as we go enter into the superconscious state. So when we go to superconscious state, we see that realm in which the universes appear and disappear. Multiple Ananta Koti Brahmandas are appearing and disappearing. In that eternal ocean of bliss, peace, absolute, unchanging, eternal reality, you enter. And after experiencing that, your whole body, mind, everything is as if dipped. Your senses are dipped and taken out afresh. All its nature's property has gone away. It is no more belongs to nature now. It is divine. Everything is divine. Body is divine, mind is divine, senses are divine. It is seeing divine everywhere when it comes back. There is no good, bad. Everything is divine. Then when he comes back, this state of coming back is called Vyuthana. When he comes into the Vyuthana sthiti, he sees everything divine. Himself divine, his mind is divine, body is divine, and everything is divine. So one becoming many, one has become this many, just like in dream, one mind becomes the whole world of dream. When you experience a world was not there, it was only mind. Like that, the one God, one transcendental reality has become this whole thing, multifarious world, multifarious universe that we see. This is what is a Vyuthana sthiti. All realized souls like Yatishwaranji Maharaj, Brahmananji and direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, they were all in that state of Vyuthana sthiti. They were seeing divine. That is the thing. The Divine Mother keeps their body. There is no need of body at all. It is something like a cloth piece somebody has given you. It goes means nothing has gone. He is all pervading. He is there eternally. Yet the Divine Mother keeps that body alive, the Jivan Mukta to live in that for the welfare of the humanity. All right? Over? So, shall we end with the same prayer? Pray, keep on praying, evolve. And what I have spoken today, last class, after class I could not send because the load is more. I have to sit day and night. Yesterday when I slept it was 2:30 after correcting in the computer. Got up at 3:45 and I am here before you. So I sleep about 3-4 hours a day and every moment I will be working non-stop. No rest. From my childhood days, not now. So we'll have the prayer. He prarthana जगदीश से यह स्वर्ग सम संसार हो, अति उच्चतम जीवन बने, परमार्थमय व्यवहार हो, ना हम रहे अपने लिए, हमको सभी से ग्रज है, आशीष दो जो सोचने का फर्ज है। हम हो पुजारी तत्व के, गुरुदेव के आदेश के, सच प्रेम के, नित नेम के, सद्धर्म के, सत्कर्म के। हो छीड़ झूठी राह की, अन्याय की, अभिमान की, सेवा करन में दास की, परवाह नहीं हो जान की। छोटे न हो हम बुद्धि से, हो विश्वमय से ईशमय, हो राममय और कृष्णमय, जगदेवमय जगदीशमय। हर इंद्रियों पर ताप कर हम वीर हो, अति वीर हो। उज्ज्वल रहे सर से सदा, निज धर्म रथ खंबीर हो। अति शुद्ध हो आचार से, तन मन हमारा सर्वदा। अध्यात्म की शक्ति हमें पल भी नहीं कर दे जुदा। इस अमर आत्मा का हमें हर श्वास भर में गत रहे। गर मौत भी तो आ गई, सुख दुख हमसे सम रहे। गर मौत भी तो आ गई, सुख दुख हमसे सम रहे। सुख दुख